a person get access to a center of excellence? Does it cost? Do you have to access, or do you have access to, or no, sorry. Yeah, do you have access to help filing for possible retirement? So it's kind of a joint question, like how do you get into a center of excellence? Maybe do you need a referral? How does it cost anything different than a regular appointment? And then also, does center of excellence have any kind of support to help with the process of retirement support?
I'll address the first part and then I'll hand it over to Lucy for the second part. So for us, if somebody calls in with, let me see a neurologist about, for instance, the system we have in place is it automatically goes through a different pathway. And so we can identify people and try to get them in our HT center. Also on the HDSA website, list contacts for us, so people just reach out to us directly without calling the hospital. In terms of getting a referral, it kind of depends on the person's insurance. So that's more of a specific person-to-person issue. And I do.
So the question about stopping work, and Allison, are you in the room?
She walked out.
She walked, okay. She is on the schedule here later, so she is an attorney dealing with disability issues works for HDSA and is a tremendous resource. And she's also worked really hard to get a lot of resources on the HDSA website around applying for disability. And she's a huge resource to those of us who are social workers, both chapter social workers, and just a shout out to Beth Tice for there, who's the Rocky Mountain chapter social worker and Center of Excellence social workers around disability concerns. So families have the option and individuals have the option of going through this process themselves if their employer does not have a disability plan for them and they've been paid into Social Security. If you are employed and one of your benefits is a disability benefit, you will go through the HR department of the company that you work for. And again, I'm speaking very generally. But you also can work with a disability attorney to have this taken care of for you. And we are really, really fortunate in the metro area to have Tom Stewart, who is very, very well versed in neural conditions because he actually worked in that field medically himself before he became an attorney. And he partners with Allison a lot. So there's a couple of really tremendous resources, and he's also works with people across the country. So another kind of a big answer, but hopefully it gets you started.
I also do encourage people to reach out if they have any questions about how to get into clinic. I frequently do calls, these are free of charge phone calls to kind of assess questions about our clinic and also to help with logistics about if cost or like transportation is a barrier to help you connect with resources, to help people in clinic. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out to us, inquire about our clinic if you're interested, and we can do our best to make conversations as we can. And also talk about insurance.
Is there a research in Utah that a 7-year-old can participate?
I'm not sure. It's hard for me to speak to Utah. In terms of juvenile, there is a study going on at the University of Iowa and Vanderbilt that's looking at juvenile HD and some sort of blood risk. Yeah.
Yes. So so Change HD, but it is coming to an end, and that's what she's talking about is the University of Iowa, and then there's Vanderbilt, UC Davis, Texas has a site. There's 5 sites for that study. There is other studies that are a little bit more like the impulsivity study. There are like some studies, but those are more a little bit like that. Specifically is in Vanderbilt that are looking at youth and different things. As far as Utah, I think they're right to call. There are studies, but they're far and few as far as looking at a child that's not diagnosed. Now, if they're diagnosed with JHD, there are a couple of those going on.
And if there's questions about it, Clinicaltrials.gov, that website is very helpful in directing people to different studies. So if you're looking, for example, if you go to clinicaltrials.gov and you type in Huntington's disease and you look at a specific region or state or area, it can tell you what studies are going on there. And if you click on that study, it usually does have a contact phone number if you have more questions about it.
Next question, is white matter seen on an HD MRI scan? Is it related to HD?
That's a great question. So there's many different studies out there looking at white matter and different pathologic conditions. I will say that in somebody who is older, typically as we age, there can be changes in white matter. So people who come in, for example, for headaches, migraines, people who had like a TIA and we get an MRI, we might see changes in white matter. And sometimes I tell people, if you see some of these changes on your scan, because our system alerts people as soon as the result comes in. So it's possible someone sees the result before I see it and you have some changes in white matter. Wait until I call you. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a different thing. Our brain has age-related changes. So our brain volumes peak probably when we're about 30 or 40. And then all of our brains, no matter HD or perfectly, no conditions, will have some volume loss. So there are brain changes. So we're looking at different brain changes. HD, we know that early on, there are certain areas of the brain that do lose volume. And so there's a newer type of research staging system that has just come into effect in the last few years. And the first stage is really a loss of volume in those specific areas. And so that's right in the area that's affected first and foremost in HD, and it's supposed to help guide research in terms of getting people in and identifying people very early.
I completely agree with everything you said. So white matter changes are very non-specific. So anything from migraines, some vascular changes, or thickening of the tiny blood vessels in the brain, the head trauma, those sorts of things can lead to those changes. So it's hard to say in any one individual with Huntington's what caused them.